Young sat on the bed, silently staring at that engagement ring on his finger. As he clenched his hand around the bouquet of the flower he held, he was nervous. He won't deny that, but he was hopeful as well. There was a spark of hope dancing in his heart, making him somewhat excited. Perhaps he would love it all. Being engaged to Jungkook was exciting. They would meet each other after they all had just been engaged for 3 months. But he knew he was a horrible man, the one who cared about his feeling and get gentle with as well. And that was something rare in people among with their circle. And they were first meet. It was just then to be him, to talk to him. There was no spark that flew around him. It was expected, and no butterflies in his stomach. But that was all fiction, and he was not a child anymore. Real life is very different, and about some past, they start liking it. He had to get married to a John. They liked him, and the time passed. He saw the love in his eyes as well, even though he never said it, and he wasn't a very expressive man. His mother was putting the final abroad on the left side of the dress. He was being called by his husband, and now here they was waiting for them to come back and take him along with them. They was very much, and that makeup won't look fresh if they didn't want hurry up. They couldn't suffocate that because he had planned it for her. When he was 20 years old, Jungkook also called him in the past 3 or 4 weeks. He knew the reason for that. He was just preparing himself for a wedding surprise, and now they was excited to finally see him. Besides, he had been in Busan for a month now, working on a new project. The company had taken down. The nod of the jaw would jiggle, and their butterflies would jump inside his belly. They looked at the door and smiled in nervousness when his mother would step inside the room with elegant green dress. His mother was a very elegant woman, and they looked up to her like all the children did. He wished someday he could be like his mother. The woman had it all: a husband who loved her unconditionally, her children who loved her just as much, and a beautiful life. Are they here now? They asked about Jungkook and his family. His mother Han had an uneasy look at his face, and she looked like she was going to burst into tears. Any moment, she took easy step toward his son and carefully sat beside him. Mom, they kissed her forehead after noticing the look on her mother's face. You have to listen to me carefully, said the woman, who was an older version of the young. Mom, you have given me the talk for the third time. No, it's not that. Han couldn't continue as the door was opened and stepped in his father, Mr. Kim, and his brother Theon. They both were the same and looked at her mother, and they got worried. What is going on, Mom? Her face and Mom were fully turned toward her. Theon, Dad? His eyes everyone, but no one would. They was going to panic now. He couldn't understand their reason for worry. Why won't they say anything? And they look into their eyes. You know, it won't a pleasant news. You will have to be strong. He came forward and sat on the other side. Now there was something. His parent would tell him, out of the blue. Something was very wrong, and he was not dumb. They know that it was related to Jungkook. What is wrong, Theon? You're scaring me. His voice came out with shaky, and he stood up with the trembling legs. He looked at his brother's face with pure. Jungkook is not coming. He didn't want to marry you, and that run off like a crowd, spat his father. He wasn't the one who dragged out things. It was only the straightforward. Theon was froze. He didn't want to believe his father, but he knew he wasn't the one who made jokes. They had to believe him. But what if it was all just a misunderstanding? What if Jungkook didn't notice, or perhaps he was in a trouble? Dad, I'm sure there was some misunderstanding. They swallowed the bitter taste that in his mouth and gave a bending look to Theon. His brother would press his lips together and look anyway but him. Theon clenched the bouquet in his hand, willing himself not to be. His eyes were very slowly and steadily bubbling with the tears. There was no misunderstanding there. He's nowhere to be found. His family can't trace him anywhere, nor can they reach his phone. His father started, his eyes was still had as ever. But Dad, what if he is in trouble? Enough. Mr. Kimmel left his hand, telling Tae to stop. I wasn't born yesterday, Theo. He left a note in the changing room. He's running off, and at the moment it felt like his world, dream, was just crushing down in a second. Why was this happening to him? What had he had done and deserved such a things? You know, people will go crazy if they know about the news. People were waiting downstairs and no one know about the situation. We can't just ruin our reputation or our family like this, which took us year to build. The young stood up and placed his hand on his shoulder. He wasn't even present at that place. His mind went black and he didn't know what else to think. It felt like his life were over. Jungkook is willing to marry you. Please, do it for the family. Now, they got attention. He snapped his head toward his brother's direction. All the tears that was streaming and falling now nowhere to be seen. They had turned into anger. His family were well known among the leads, and their families speak of their father's business, and his presence is very charity even at the audience. But John's family was a huge deal. They was known among elites as well, and media. Paparazzi were handed them and finished for the information because their business was very much more than Theung's father. Due to their money, they were well known, so it made their target of cameras. And that's why their marriage was important, because he was marrying a John. Oh, why would he do that to me? They whispered to himself. Why he's putting me in this situation? Why do I have to marry Jungkook? His voice was barely above a whisper. He made the case of his brother. They, I know it's not easy for you, but please try and understand. I would kill that with my bare hands if I ever see him again. But for now, you have to do that. Deung said, getting anger, and his look at his brother with sympathy. He hated sympathy, and now they hated the man of his dream also. He should have told him if he didn't love him. Why would he say yes to the proposal? He wasn't interested in him. Maybe he wanted to braid him. Maybe he was quite successful, and they was not that needy. So they did what he had to do. If everyone was putting him in the situation, they would face it. Not like he had a choice in the matter. John was not the people to mess with. They were all very lovingly, but once you mess with them, it was over for you. They know it wasn't his fault that it was happening, but he knew he had to do what he was asking for. His marriage was also designed for his family, and they didn't know that before. But it was his fault that they had fallen for him along with all the way and embarrassing John's. It was all of the Christian that were nothing to lose because they had the power. Rather, it would ruin his own family, his father, and in business reputation. All that's matter. I will marry him. They said, and Young hugged his brother. They know his life won't be the same after the because never in the imagination he have ever thought at scandals they read about the papers and social media will befall on him. Young had not looked up at Jungkook for even once. They didn't know why he felt the embarrassment he did. He couldn't face him. They sat around the table with his family and the John family, while all the other people were sat in front of the chair. The deed was done. They was now married to a man he had barely spoken to on rare occasion, a man they didn't know, a man that scared him. The eyes moved behind only to catch a glimpse of his muscles and the veins that was visible on his hands. They dared not to look at his face.